So guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. Hope you guys are staying safe. So guys, Manny Pacquiao takes a dig at Guillermo Rigondeaux. Guys, the fans are not happy with Guillermo Rigondeaux. You know, they've let their disappointment known all over social media. Rigondeaux has come under some serious criticism. I feel for Rigondeaux because, like I said, I've been a fan of Rigondeaux, and I've been somebody that has stood up for Rigondeaux in the past. That I thought he was a very, very talented fighter. Nobody wanted to fight him. But Manny Pacquiao said he's glad that Casemiro got the win, because Rigondeaux didn't come to fight. He was like Mayweather. So basically having a dig at Mayweather's fight and his fight, saying that Mayweather did exactly the same thing as Rigondeaux. I don't think Mayweather did what Rigondeaux did. I think Rigondeaux was a lot worse. Mayweather at times would fight with Manny, but this guy was just he was just running. You know, at least Mayweather was doing other stuff, like he was grabbing hold, ducking underneath. He was doing all the other kind of stuff. But whereas Rigondeaux was like, he was doing a lot of running side to side. And listen, I get, like, a lot of people say, you know what, it's boxing, and it's called boxing is to hit and not get hit. But the fact of the matter is this, that he didn't even throw many punches, Rigondeaux. Like, is it true that he only landed like 44 punches in the whole fight? Like, I think that tells you all you need to know. That tells you all you need to know. It was very, very disappointing. And to be honest with you, Casemiro was poor. Casemiro was doing a lot of he was doing a lot of chasing around. He couldn't cut off the ring. You know, he was terrible as well. Let's be honest. Let's call it spade a spade. Casemiro wasn't great either, you know. And I think I spoke to a lot of Filipinos actually that were saying Casemiro weren't that great. You know, they weren't impressed. And a lot of them think Inoue would be too much for Casemiro. But one thing I will say, styles make fights. Styles make fights. Don't write off Casemiro just because he didn't do too good against Rigondeaux. Rigondeaux's got a style that would cause Inoue trouble. And although I would favor Inoue to beat Casemiro, what I would say is don't start writing Casemiro off just because of that fight with in Rigondeaux, because Rigondeaux's got a style that will cause any fighter trouble. Anyone that's been in the ring with Rigondeaux will struggle, apart from Lomachenko, who was very skilled and very big. If you look at most of the guys that go in with Rigondeaux, his size would obviously struggle with Rigondeaux because of the boxing skills of Rigondeaux. So don't get it twisted. Rigondeaux is a special fighter. He's just very negative. You know, Rigondeaux is a very gifted fighter. Trust me. Like he's old now. What you've got to remember, I know fans are giving him a lot of stick, but he's old now. He's not that fighter, so he's probably a lot more cagey, a lot more cautious, a lot more defensive. But in his day, like, this guy beat Donaire, man. He beat Donaire. He had a great fight with Donaire. That was one of his come-out fights where he actually didn't disappoint. It was a very good fight. This is why in the Casemiro fight, I was like, this guy's a completely different fighter. But he is, because how long ago was that Donaire and Rigondeaux fight? So this is what I'm trying to say. Like, Rigondeaux is a completely different guy now, unfortunately. And yeah, I just think it was disappointing to see what we saw. But Manny taking his usual dig at Floyd by comparing Rigondeaux to Floyd and saying, you know, I'm glad that Casemiro got the win. I'm glad that Casemiro got that victory, because it reminded him of a fight that he had with Floyd Mayweather, and saying it was kind of similar to that, where the guy didn't come to fight. Again, I reiterate, I wouldn't agree that Floyd didn't come to fight, but I do see what Manny's saying. Floyd wasn't trying to engage with him. Floyd wasn't trying to look for a proper fight, a toe-to-toe scrap. He was trying to look to box and hit and not be hit. Whereas Manny was looking for, you know, he wanted Mayweather to engage, and Mayweather wouldn't engage. So I can understand where Manny's coming from. But Rigondeaux was, I think most of you guys would agree, Rigondeaux was a lot worse than that. Rigondeaux was circling around the ring, which I'm all for the sweet science. I'm all for all of that. But, there's got to be exciting. There's got to be excitement. Like 44 punches landed. If that's true, I think that's what the numbers, how many punches he landed. That's just not, the fans aren't going to like that. If a fighter's only landing 44 punches in 36 minutes, you know, think about it. Like, that's not great. Especially when you talk about Rigondeaux, a very skilled, a guy with the pedigree, 2 Olympic gold medals and world titles. Like, we expect more from Rigondeaux. We do. Boxing, although it's a sweet science, and I get that, but it's also an entertainment business. There's a reason why a lot of the TV networks neglected putting Rigondeaux on. There's a reason why Rigondeaux didn't get the fights. There's a reason why Rigondeaux was isolated, like left in the wilderness, because of these reasons. Because the fact that Rigondeaux wasn't exciting. Nobody really wanted to watch Rigondeaux. And unfortunately, boxing is a business. These networks want to see fighters on there that do ratings. Why do you think these YouTubers like Jake Paul, why do they want them on there? Because they know that these guys do ratings. People want to watch them. It may not be a boxing audience, but the fact is they do numbers, they do ratings. Rigondeaux doesn't, because of Rigondeaux's, he's so skilled. Being so skilled it can be a disadvantage in from the business side of things, because he's so skilled and he's so scientific with how he fights that it can be viewed as boring. Because let's not forget, there's not many hardcore fans. And even some of the hardcore fans don't like what Rigondeaux style. They don't like what Rigondeaux does. So if the hardcores, imagine a guy that watches a fight now and then, watching that. That's not a hardcore fan like we are. Imagine they watching that. Imagine what they would be thinking. They probably think, I'm never going to watch boxing again, if they see something like that. And this is what I'm trying to say, that boxing is a business, it's entertainment. This is why when people start talking about, I'm not going to watch Khan Brook because it never happened in their prime, it really frustrates me, because at the end of the day, what is boxing? Boxing is about entertainment, right? You honestly can't tell me that Khan Brook isn't going to be an entertaining fight. Yes, it isn't what it was. Of course, it's not what it was. We know that. But the fact is, it's still entertaining. Casimero Rigondeaux was a unification. It was basically a great fighter in Rigondeaux fighting a Casimero it was a world title fight, basically, right? And it was a very boring fight. So what I'm saying is entertainment, right? Boxing's about entertainment. Entertainment can be found at any level. Not just at world title level. Like I said, there's some world title fights that are boring. There's some, British title fights that are really exciting. But that doesn't mean, we're not going to watch it. The fact of the matter is, boxing's about entertainment. If entertainment can be found at any level. Floyd Mayweather, the reason why Manny Pacquiao was more loved by the fans, because his fighting style was a lot more exciting than Mayweather's. But Mayweather was also liked by a lot of fans. Some people, like David Hayes said, that I love watching Mayweather. The way he picks fighters apart, the way he boxes. I think the Pacquiao fans look at the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight and they just think Mayweather didn't want to engage at all. And Mayweather doesn't normally fight like that. Although Mayweather is defensive and he's not the most exciting, but he doesn't fight the way he normally fought against Pacquiao. I think the reason why he fought the way he did against Pacquiao, he wanted to make sure he wins that fight. So he wanted to make it clear that he wins that fight, in the sense that he just didn't want Pacquiao to land many punches at all. So he was just making it that he was trying to make it so obvious that Pacquiao can't land and he's landing and winning the fight. That's what I think he was trying to do. And in the judges' eyes, that's what he did. And I always thought Mayweather won that fight. I know a lot of you give me a lot of stick about it and say, no, Pacquiao won, he loud. Mayweather, for me, the reason why he fought the way he did against Pacquiao, he didn't want to take any chances. Because that fight meant so much to his legacy, he couldn't afford to lose that fight, because everybody looked at Pacquiao as alongside Mayweather. So all the other guys that Mayweather had fought and beat, right? Pacquiao was viewed as somebody on the same level as Mayweather. So Mayweather just wanted to make sure he wins that fight. You know, he wanted to make sure that he gives Pacquiao no chance of winning. And effectively, that's what he basically did. That's why you saw him fight so defensively and not trying to engage, you know, doing ducking low and grabbing hold. And he just wanted to neutralize Manny Pacquiao. And as you can see in that fight, Manny Pacquiao was so frustrated because, and there was times in the fight when Manny Pacquiao was punching his chest and telling Mayweather, come on, let's fight, let's fight. But Mayweather wasn't having it because Mayweather was so content on winning, right? He didn't want to give Pacquiao any chance because he knew how dangerous Pacquiao was. If Mayweather stood in the ring and fought, you know, the way he did against, like, in when he was at 135, he would have lost to Pacquiao. That would have suited Manny Pacquiao. So Mayweather knew that. That's why Mayweather fought the way he did, guys. He didn't want to give, he basically didn't want to give Pacquiao any chance of winning. And that's why you saw Mayweather fight defensively like he did against Manny Pacquiao. And that's why we got a real boring fight. And a lot of people were angry. A lot of people were angry. I remember at the time, I remember speaking to this girl and she was saying, you know what, I stayed awake for that fight. And she goes, that was terrible. Imagine how many people, that fight was hyped up so much, right? So much. Imagine how many people, I remember the buzz around that fight. I remember fight week. I remember how many casuals were watching that fight. Like people people that are not even interested in boxing. Like this girl that I spoke to, she wasn't a boxing fan. She said, I stayed up for it. And she goes, she didn't enjoy it. She didn't enjoy it. And there was many people like that. The hardcore fans like us thought that the fight wasn't great. But unfortunately, this is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes the greatest matchups that we want to see are not always the most exciting fights. Sometimes matchups that we don't even expect, you know, we're not even looking forward to, end up being so exciting. You know what? I remember that, you know, when we go back like 10 years and the big fights just didn't seem to live up. And then recently, the big fights have started to live up to the hype. You know, back in the day, in the 80s, the big fights always used to live up. Then there was a period where the big fights were getting made, but they weren't living up, you know, to how much they were being hyped. But of recently, what I've seen, some of the big fights are living up to the hype. They are dramatic. They are great. And that's good for the sport because what you got to realize is the real super fights, the casuals are tuning in. So if you're tuning into a super fight and you're not a hardcore boxing fan and you enjoy what you see, you're going to tune in again when there's another big fight. And then slowly, that casual fan becomes a hardcore fan because he starts watching more and more and more because he's starting to enjoy it now. And this is why, you know, it's so important that these big super fights live up. And Mayweather Pacquiao didn't live up, unfortunately. You know, it just didn't live up. But anyway, guys, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you make of what Manny had to say? Leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think. And guys, remember to please like, share, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.